outreach, presence of water, sanitation, or lack thereof. In the village, we've seen instances of typhoid outbreaks, cholera outbreaks, and actually there are other places which are worse affected than we have been. So we formed some partnerships with both the local organizations, and this is the way you bring in. It's interesting how back at home, I'm sure this will come up maybe later on, back at home, the school community, the church community, everything kind of like works together and they kind of flow together. So in order to reach out to these communities, you have to know the provincial administration, the chief, but then you also have to reach out to the local schools and the local churches. So what we've been doing is in partnership with the local stakeholders, but then also with some of the organizations in the US. One of the groups we've been partnering closely with called Blood Water Mission. Blood Water Mission was founded by Jazz of Clay, which is a Christian rock band, and their goal is to decrease HIV spread in Africa, but then also to provide clean water and sanitation to these communities in Africa. So not only do they drill wells in communities that they partner with, but then in a place like Luala, not only do we have some clean wells, but then also partnering with the local schools. When it rains, it would be nice to provide a rain catchment system. So we have actually, initially we started work with just 3-4 schools, and now we've reached out to 13 different schools after doing a pilot with the local 3 schools. And reaching out to these schools, so now we have clean water for all these schools. And that reaches out to more than 6,000 students. And it's not only just in the schools, but in some of the community outposts. So, when you have clean water, unfortunately, our part of the county had one of the lowest latrine penetrations. When you go back to the village, maybe that's not something you're thinking about when you're here. For most people, you go, as they call it, sit in the throne to take care of number 2. And people have, people read their magazines, people do whatever they do when they, when they're going to use the bathroom. But you go back home, and actually many homesteads that do not have a clean place, an outhouse or a latrine. So there are people who just go out to the bushes, and so when it rains, your chickens run out there, all this means of contaminating and bringing illness back to the people. So one of the cool things that we're doing, we have what's called a water, sanitation, and hygiene tournament that happens every year. I think this will be the 4th or the 5th year that we are doing it. And basically, we know that soccer is a popular sport back at home, or we call it football. So there are all these communities that have their football teams. So, and the women also play football, they play volleyball. So we've reached out to them. Everybody has to, in order to participate, you must undergo about a week of intense water sanitation hygiene training. And then you must demonstrate that in your household, there is at least one functional latrine or outhouse. So there are all these things that people are doing, and the competition for this training is so high because everybody wants to be eligible to participate in the tournament. So now we're seeing the number of latrines going up in the homesteads. Meanwhile, people are having fun with it because you are going to play some football, play some volleyball. And so this is one of the creative ways in which we are trying to promote sanitation and hygiene, and also let people have fun.
So why don't we take some questions from the audience? Do folks have questions?
Fred, how has your faith impacted and motivated you in this whole process you've gone through the last 10 years?
Yeah, you know, I think one of the things that in growing up in Luala, and I think we were kind of fortunate to grow up in a place like Luala. You know, both of my parents, and especially my mother, who are really strong people of faith. So I think learning about how you need to love your neighbor as you love yourself, and thinking about how, you know, to whom much is given, a lot is expected. And so, I mean, I think growing up and seeing people suffering around us, and, you know, just thinking about how faith and medicine intersect, and then coming to a place like Dartmouth and looking around and seeing how, you know, many of my classmates back when we were growing up, how many we had lost to HIV, AIDS, how many never had such opportunities as we had, and then just realizing how, you know, how blessed we were, and then just knowing that, you know, there's a reason as to why we are here, and these doors that God has continued to open for us. So I think faith has been crucial in ways that we think about our relationships to our, you know, loving your neighbors, but then also thinking about some of the challenges during, when you're growing up, during training, or even when you try to do a crazy thing like build a clinic, when you have no idea, you have no training, and all the challenges that come with that. So, you know, dealing with tragedy, dealing with the loss of our parents. So I think somehow we were lucky to have grown up in faith, and then to find a really strong faith community here at Dartmouth College, and all those people that have continued to nourish us in terms of our faith.
I was wondering, what were some of the other examples where you'd seen the hand of God just on the road to building the clinic? I mean, obviously it seems very good that with the sudden 8,000 plus windfall, he was blessing that. I was just wondering what some of the other cases were on the way where you saw the hand of God.
Yeah, I mean, I think after we built the clinic, you know, we were excited that we wanted to have a structure on the ground. And then once we built the clinic, then we stepped back and realized, it's not just building the building. There's a lot more to it than having the structure in place. And so I think that's kind of when we had to reach out and say, good people around us, we need to maybe form a board. We need to have people who have knowledge in running non-profit organizations. So that's kind of when we reached out to our friends around us. Our initial board was folks like Dr. Young, who had been our friends when we were still here at college. And so bringing all these people together and thinking of how we ran into the Blood Water Mission folks. Jenna, who's the executive director, happened to come home with us to Kenya June of 2005 when we were beginning groundbreaking. I'd never met Jenna before. And so we rode in the back of our pickup truck and we took materials to go to the village. And Jenna, after hearing about our story and seeing what we were trying to do, then came back to the US and talked to Jazz of Play about what we were doing, and seeing that intersection between how HIV had affected our community and lack of water sanitation. And to think of how, after we built the structure, we had no money to begin running the facility. And we put together, after we put together our board of advisors, we put together a business plan, wrote a grant to Blood Water Mission, and they're the ones who funded the initial $60,000 that enabled us to open in April of 2007. So, I mean, there have just been so many cool God moments, and I could just list one after another. And the fact that he has brought, we've been so fortunate to have so many dedicated people, not only serving on the ground in Kenya, but then also some of our advisors here in the US. So I see the hand of God kind of on a day-to-day basis. And kind of when you feel stretched thin and when you feel like giving up, and then something so cool comes along, and it's been one story after another of that. They say the cup overflows.
Thank you so much for what you're sharing with us. I went to Dartmouth 27 years ago. They weren't accepting as many women at the time. I grew up in California, similar to you, very warm weather, but had the gift of being smart because I was a fast runner at a young age. God gave me that gift. I got a chance to go to a Catholic school at a young age.